Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Youth Squad. On several occasions in the past throughout the series, we discussed the topic of youth engagement and how the youth participates in different activities and what the youth needs actually to in order to get active and to feel more involved in the decision-making processes and in general just in the processes that are important to them. And today, in this episode, I have a fantastic opportunity to discuss this topic from a different perspective with the person that actually works in this field and is really successful with, engaging the youth and activating the youth to get involved in the processes that they find important. In this episode with us is Laura. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Laura comes from Lithuania and has worked as a youth trainer, facilitator for over 8 years. So she has a lot of experience in this field, and I'm eager to hear what she has to share with us, what the youth perceives as important and how they get active in her surroundings. She doesn't only work with the youth in general, she actually works with people from different backgrounds, such as people with disabilities or youth from disadvantaged neighborhoods, which gives totally different perspective and a whole another interesting layer to this conversation. And she's also director of a small local NGO called The Fifth Corner, where she works on topics of human rights education, social inclusion, mental and sexual health, and youth empowerment. So basically everything that is in focus of this series, she does it. And I am very excited about this episode. And I want to say hello, Laura. Welcome to this episode of Youth Squad. How are you, first of all?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Maria. Thanks for having me here with you. I'm doing very, very well. I think also super busy. I think autumn is always a very busy time for most of the youth workers because many things are being implemented. So you're always on the rush. But other than that, I'm good and very excited to have this conversation with you as well.
Thank you for being here, and I am sure that a lot of things are happening at the end of the year. So thank you for taking the time to actually spend this time with us on this episode. So once again, thank you. We had a chance to meet before, although online. I heard a lot of nice things about you, and you told me about your life and what you do, and you told me that you're getting your PhD in psychology. And my first question for you is actually when you started that journey, when you enrolled, psychology, did you plan to use this degree to work with the youth in this manner, or was it just an accident?
That's actually a very good question. And now when you ask, my brain started already working and think which one started first? Was it youth work or was it my PhD in psychology? Because before that, I obviously did my bachelor and my master's in psychology. But I found out about non-formal education opportunities quite late because it came to Lithuania also pretty late, especially when you consider the smaller regions, not the capital. And I remember that at the end of my master's, I got an opportunity to participate in the first youth exchange as a participant. And it was something really mind-blowing, I would say. And I really enjoyed the concept. I found it super useful and I found something very new, but also very different from what I learned at university because I was so used to formal education. And for me, it was not only that, comparison, which one is better, but for me, it was kind of aha moment, that actually you can combine these two, and you can reach maybe way more if you're using both methods, because I think both types of education are really much needed. And it happened so that I started my PhD, and at the same time, there were other proposals coming up because I made contacts, with people, with different NGOs, and they were kept inviting me to more and more opportunities. I was going, and then, in the middle of my PhD, I guess, I realized that it's actually something I would like to do myself, I would like to maybe not only to be participating in the trainings, but also deliver the training to young people and to share things that I have. But also find out that having degree in psychology is actually a bonus, because it really helps you to build the connection with people, listen actively, kind of make the ways to collaborate, because they're very different. There are lots of personalities. Everyone is really unique, and I'm saying by really meaning it that everyone is unique and bringing their own experience, attitude, and perception. And for me, it was kind of really helpful to have the degree in psychology to make sure that I can reach those people and I can find a common language with them. So I would say it was very complementary experience, having degree in psychology and still working on it, but also, being as a youth worker. So I would say these things really go well together, and they can help you to maybe make a bigger impact, I hope.
Yeah. You seem so modest when you're talking about this, but I'm sure that you're doing a decent work with everything. And you mentioned something about finding the common language with the youth that you're working with. And my question is, like, did you manage to find the common language with you? Do you think that in generally looking, you success at finding the common language with the youth? And how hard is it?
That's another good question. Really, it feels so strange, to rate yourself and your abilities to find the common language. I really tried though, but like in society, we all are different, and with some people, as I say, you vibe immediately, you really kind of click, as I say, and you really, find that you're having like very similar ideas, very similar values, and it makes the communication super easy. On the other hand, there are people, who maybe have different values and different opinions and different understanding to many things. And I'm not saying that it's not worth to know them. It definitely is. And I really like to approach these people, because it's sometimes also good, for me to listen to other opinions and to make sure that I'm not living inside the box, that I can be open-minded and to hear what other part of the conversation on other, how to say, the other end of the on the continuum can add or say, so I'm always trying to listen to them as well, and to really understand them. But it takes more time, because sometimes the click doesn't happen so fast. So I'm saying that, sometimes you need more effort and be very patient and be very empathetic to young people. But I think that what all youth workers go through, right? And you need to know that, since I said that everyone is unique, that everyone maybe has a unique way to be approached. And of course, I'm not saying that I'm a magician or something, that I go and I make friends with everyone. I wish I could, but I'm also a human being, right? And with some people we get along more. With some other people, maybe it's more difficult. But I'm saying it's always worth to try, and it's always worth to try to find your person. That's why we have many youth workers, even in Lithuania. I'm not the only one, of course. And maybe it's, if I don't vibe, maybe they find someone else they can vibe, But it doesn't mean that I should stop trying, or I should not be keen, to find the dialogue with those people, which I'm definitely trying to do that in my work.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it kind of mirrors the general social interaction. With some people you click more, with others you click less. But if you keep trying, obviously there's gonna be some sort of connection, no matter whether it was, from the moment that you met this person, or later on the way. But I mean, when it comes down to conveying the message to the youth, when you want to, for example, promote human rights, and you have this activity around the topic of human rights, do you think that you can find a common language in that sense, that you make the the topic that's so general and so abstract in many ways, something that the youth is interested in, because most of the time educational topics is not something that youth is interested in. I mean, and not generalizing, I'm just saying that not using proper terminology can sometimes have a counter effect in that sense, and where even the youth is interested in, when someone is interested in some topic, if you're using the wrong terminology, you can kind of just not click, as you said. So do you think in that sense that you find a common language with the youth that, for example, is coming from different heterogeneous backgrounds?
Yes. I think I get to what you mean, and indeed, working with young people is absolutely inspiring, and I feel maybe you can hear it, and maybe the people who are listening to this podcast can also hear it. I feel very passionate about it. But I would say what I love most about young people is that they have, as we call, the bullshit detector, So they really, really know that if your intentions are sincere, or you're doing just in order to do it, or that you need like check mark on your papers, oh, that I need to organize a meeting with the young people. And they like to give you a lot, kind of, I don't want to use a bad language again, but we call it like shit tests, like to check if you really care, about them, because I think they kind of really used to be that, we approach young people just, for the political reasons, or we will approach young people because that's part of the educational system and so on. And they know that, and they all often, now complain to me that, we had many people who come and ask like what you need, what are your interests, what would you like to be organized for you, and something, but they barely ask, how they would like to be involved in the organizing things, how much power in the decision-making process they would like to have. And actually, even though the initial contact is made, many people abandon them in the process, so they get the feeling that, okay, you just came because you have to do that, but you don't really care, And for me, as someone who really wants to become more active and more engaged, in all the levels, probably in the decision making processes as possible, for them, it really kind of makes my life hard because you need to go through this shit test to show them, okay, you really want to, and you're there for them, and you will try your best to make sure that they have the opportunities. But once they do, and once they find out that you're really trying, they are super involved and they super engaged, and they really value your effort. Even sometimes, we struggle, and it's not easy when you're a tiny local NGO to make great things. Like, it really requires lots of resources, especially time and effort. But they really appreciate it. And even sometimes if things don't go super well, or the things don't go as they were initially planned, they really understand and they're really supporting. And I really appreciate them, because I guess they understand that I'm really trying to do it in the way that they are having the ownership of something. So instead, I'm saying that when you ask like how you find a common language with young people, instead of pushing things onto them, I would like to come and listen what is important to them, what are the things they want to discuss, and I think that helps to build that common ground and the common language with them, that you show that you're really interested. And even though in the most cases, when I go and say like, look, what would you like, to happen? Are there any specific topics you would like to work on, on our community? They often say, I don't know, or something like this. And then you still don't give up, and you still, try to engage them in a very non-formal way, and, find the dialogue and build the trust. And once you do that, the things come up like initially. So, for example, that's how I found out that many people are really interested in sexual education, even though, I was not the one, proposing the topic, but it came out, from young people when we were having informal conversations with the cups of coffee. And they said like, we really miss this. And in Lithuania currently there are lots of scandals, happening under the sexual education at schools. So I found out, okay, maybe that's really something that young people needs in Lithuania and my community, and it came from them. And I'm very happy that they told me, because now I'm trying to organize some things, and I see that the interest is really there. So it means like you can get youth involved uh, if you really propose them something that they kind of relate to, or something that's very important to them. So, but this takes time, and this takes also effort. And I'm mentioning effort a lot, but that's indeed true. You don't build the trust in one day, and you don't build the connection with young people in one day. But once you do, magic happens, I think, and that's why you need to keep trying.
Honestly, your like inspiration, your passion just transcends through this microphone and through this audio. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Basically, as someone who is a young person, and I also participate in a lot of activities, not of non-formal education. A good trainer, facilitator, and a youth worker can make a huge difference. And you're mentioning effort and the time and consistency and being persuasive, and I think that's what actually does really build the trust between the youth and the people that they're working with. And because a lot of decision makers, especially in the underdeveloped countries such as mine, and I don't know what the Lithuania status is with the decision makers' relationship with the youth, but here in Serbia we don't have such clear connection with them, and I don't feel like me as a young person, I don't have a feeling that the decision makers are actually listening to me. And you mentioned ticking the boxes and doing so just for the sake of doing it. I feel like most of the time that's the case with the decision makers, and as well with the people in the formal educational system. So I know that what you're doing with communicating and being patient and being honest and being true to the true to what you're doing and what you're saying. You're actually living your truth. It makes the whole difference, and it shifts the perspective on what do you, if you have a feeling that you're being heard as a young person. So that definitely I agree with you in that sense. So what would you say is like the youth in your community in Lithuania active, and do they actually want to get involved in the topics that you mentioned, such as sexual education and human rights and so on?
First of all, thank you for your very nice words. When you hear something so supportive, it really makes my heart melt, because then I understand that, okay, my work it has purpose, and people really feel it. So that's why that's the best thing I could get, for doing this. So thank you so much. You mentioned Serbia, and the politicians and decision making. People will make decisions, right? And I think Lithuania is more or less the same, like especially in the regions. And I will talk also about my region because I live there and my organization is based there, and that's the reason why I created. Me and my friends, we created this tiny NGO, because youth, like Lithuania, is kind of, how to say, I feel it's divided into two big parts. One part is the capital, and maybe the two other largest cities in Lithuania, where young people are having way more opportunities to do many things. They not only have the greater access to greater education or, to some kind of leisure activities. There are more youth centers, more opportunities dedicated for young people, which might interest young people. And lots of them are even for free, and that's a very good thing. But then there's another part of Lithuania, which is regions, and especially rural areas, where there are not so many opportunities for young people to be involved, especially actively involved. And even if there are, they're very segregated. For example, they're not really inclusive. And young people, maybe that's a bit jump in my speech, but for example, if you go to any meeting of municipality, and there were times that I was part of the municipality meetings to ensuring the inclusion is involved, like you always hear, oh, we need young people to stay in the regions because that's the future, for the region. So we need to do everything to keep them, not to make them leave the country, or not to encourage them to go to the capital and so on. But when you ask what you're doing for young people to stay here, this tiny little town, then the answer is none. Like, they're not doing this, and they're expecting young people to do things themselves, but that's not how it works. Like, young people, I mean, they're very initiative, they're having great ideas, but they need to be sure that they also have the support, because they're young, and sometimes you kind of need this mentorship and support, especially financially, to make sure that your ideas are implemented, or maybe you need some guidance to make great things. And unfortunately, in most cases, this guidance and support is not provided, neither by municipality, neither by other NGOs. And I think that young people are often left, on their own, and they're always coming like, oh, we need more social workers, we need more youth workers, but there not enough funding, for example, for that. And then this kind of is never-ending circle. Like, you don't have resources to make youth more involved. Youth is not involved, and when youth is not involved, everyone thinks that more resources are not needed. So it's kind of, like, sometimes I feel like we're stuck. And what you can see is happening, that if some enthusiastic people come and try to bring the change, and to try to maybe make the youth more active, it usually pays off. But like, how much you as a one person can do, and of course you can do a lot, but it's very hard without getting the support from the decision makers. And we always keep advocating for that we need that. And things are getting better. I don't want to say that everything is so bad, or like very pessimistic, but it definitely could be more, especially in the decision making. Like, not only having the Council of Youth on your municipality, but actually making sure what they've done, and kind of show that everyone is welcome here, and that's really not a corrupted place that the youth, which is well known, are representing, because sometimes it really feels that way, and that like there's some kind of segregation between young people as well. But to make sure that it's inclusive, that everyone has kind of a role or opportunity to be active participant in by building your own society. So I would say young people could be more active. They're not really active, especially in the regions, because they used to grow up like this. When you don't have many opportunities, and everything is really kind of segregating, especially I'm talking about the financial barriers, because young people, I think it's the same in Serbia, right? When you're coming from a rural area, of course, your economic situation is a bit harder, like more difficult than if you're living in a big town and your parents having a very good job. So of course it makes the difference. And for young people, like, it really takes time to make sure that they doing something active, they doing something they doing something for the community, instead of choosing some delinquent behavior, which is also a big problem in a small towns and regions, like young people getting into addictions or some kind of small criminal activities. So the basic message is, youth should be active and could be active, but they need opportunities, and those opportunities should come from the decision makers. We as youth workers are very happy to support them, but we cannot do everything alone, and we really need to you need some support and help from the people who have the better access to the resources, I would say.
Obviously. I mean, it's a whole ecosystem, and I think all of these elements that you mentioned, they have to work together in everything in order for everything to work out. So you need the decision makers to be on board in order for the resources to be flooding in. You need the youth to be active, and you need the youth workers to actually do their job properly and ethically. So these three have to function well together in order for the whole thing to work. So I agree with you completely, and I agree with the statement that Serbia is really similar to Lithuania in this sense. I am also a young person who's coming from a rural area, and I couldn't get active until I arrived in the capital, which is really sad to see, because now I also am involved in youth work, so to say. I also do trainings and stuff. So when you meet the young people that are, for example, 15-year-old, 13-year-old, and they're as active as possible, and they're doing amazing things with their intelligence, with their power, with their strength, with their inspiration, motivation, it's just so beautiful to see. But when I reflect on that, I understand that I also feel kind of sad, because I didn't have the same opportunities, and I had to get active when I enrolled in the faculty and when I moved to a bigger city, and that shouldn't be so. And obviously, decision makers should do something about it to make active life for the youth more accessible to the youth that they're targeting. So you mentioned that you work with also not only youth that's already marginalized, from what I've heard and from what I can see also from my own personal experience. So the youth is already marginalized, but you also work with the marginalized youth within the youth that's already marginalized. So you work with people that are that have disabilities, and you also work with people that are coming from unfavorable positions, whether that be economic state or just unsafe neighborhoods and stuff. So how do you reach these youth, and how do you work with them? Do they understand that the importance the importance of getting involved in the processes that can change their lives for the better?
Yes, indeed. In my work, I'm trying to be as inclusive as possible. Well, since I think Katerina mentioned to you when you met her, that I'm also having a disability myself. I'm using a wheelchair, and back in the times when I was participant of the youth project and opportunities, and when I wanted to start to become more active, in decision making processes, which also happened, by the way, just like you, when I arrived to the bigger city and when I entered the university, because I didn't have any opportunities in my hometown, which I'm working now. I can really relate to that, big cities have bigger opportunities, and that's true. But it also, on the other hand, young people coming from regional places or rural areas are no less smart, no less incredible, or no less capable to do amazing things, but they need more self-confidence sometimes, and they need chances to get involved, and when there are not opportunities to get involved, for them it's very hard to be active. So that's one thing. And another thing is, it's especially hard for people who are living in regional towns or in the rural areas, and who are having disabilities, for example. And I remember when I was growing up and trying to, I don't know, for example, go to the youth exchange somewhere in Turkey, and I mentioned that, okay, look, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm very interested in the topic. I have a experience I would like to share with my other peers coming from different countries, and I would like to hear their stories and hear their narratives. They would say, oh, we would love to have you, but we're not ready. We don't have the conditions to accept you. And this happened not only once or twice, it happened hundreds of times, and wherever you would go, you want to go to the film festival for young people, they have stairs and they don't have elevators, so no chance for you to participate. They're having some kind of meetings with the council, which are happening on the third floor with no elevator, so things like that, it happens on the daily life, and it's kind of depressing, I'm not gonna lie, and it's really demotivating sometimes that you really need to push hard just to be active and just to be involved, and also to propose sometimes your competences, but you do not have even the basic conditions to be part of it. And then kind of I realized that, okay, things are not gonna change by themselves. You can advocate it, but the best thing is that you could do, and what I could do, is to try to change things and to bring my own perspective to the things I'm organizing. So, for example, now when I'm doing projects, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, nobody's perfect, and I'm still learning. I will probably keep learning till my last day of life. But I'm really trying to to be aware, of the needs of young people, and keeping in mind that, people with disabilities, they're facing double discrimination, especially the ones coming from rural areas, not only like socioeconomical backgrounds, but basically the barriers caused by their disabilities, and that society is not inclusive and accessible enough. I really try to encourage them to be more active by providing the opportunities which more inclusive compared to others, So I'm really trying to keep their needs in mind and being in constant dialogue with them that, okay, what would you need? What would make you comfortable being, to take part in this event? Or would you be willing, to go to the project abroad? What would you need for you to feel safe and secure, and that you could, enjoy these opportunities? And it's also, process, I would say, and sometimes even harder, because when you ask me like how I make sure that I, I hear their needs, the one thing is to ask, but another thing is that those people are feeling even more, how to say, unsafe and maybe unsecure to be even vulnerable. Yeah, they feel more vulnerable, exactly. And for them, it's a very big step to go abroad, for example. Even though you provide opportunity that you can bring the personal assistant, you always try to make sure that everything is there, and they still sometimes change their mind because, for example, the parents do not allow them to go, or they get scared. It's a big step, and sometimes it's really kind of, how to say, disappointing that you put so much effort and then the person says, no, but I can't, I'm really not ready. But then you understand, okay, that shows that your work is very much needed, and you need to keep encouraging those people, because I was once in their shoes as well. For me, it was also, the very big thing to go to my first project, abroad, to speak the English all the time, and to stay for a week with people I don't know, and to check how is it going. And of course, not everything was perfect when it comes to accessibility, but you find a way, right? And I would like, and still those memories are some of the best I had, despite all the issues we faced, because you create really like something special with the people you go abroad. I think you know it, as you mentioned, you've been to many projects as well. It's something that it cannot be replaced. So I really want the young people with disabilities coming from rural areas to have this experience if they want. And I think I'm getting there, but it's really, really tough. And not only because uh, funding or something, but because those people need more encouragement and need to feel more secure, And I think that's also kind of responsibility of the society as well, making sure why those people are, so unsure of themselves that they could able to do it, And it also gives me a question like, what can I do to make sure that they actually can do it and they would like to do it, and that what can I do more? And I think I still haven't found the magic answer that would encourage young people to be more active. But I hope I'm going to that direction, and I'm hope that maybe after 10 years there will be no problem for anyone with a wheelchair user, or I don't know, visually impaired, or someone who's facing very difficult financial situation, to go and enjoy all types of opportunities, Erasmus and other international non-formal educational programs can offer. So that's my aim, actually, and I really hope this is the near future. But for that, I think we all need to try. We all need to work on that, to make sure that, as you said, youth opportunities are for everyone. It's not for some special young people, but it's actually for all the young people.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we actually can circle back to what you said in the beginning when you mentioned that you have to be persuasive, you have to be, stubborn with this approach. You have to have a clear goal and go towards it no matter what. Although it can sometimes seem discouraging, and the process may be really slow, and that you get demotivated from time to time. You have to keep trying and keep normalizing people with disabilities and people who are in an even bigger disadvantage than the youth in general, to get involved in the projects and to go through exchanges and to meet people from all around the world and to travel and to experience different cultures, different languages, different customs and so on. So I think when we are talking specifically about, for example, Erasmus Plus program and the network that is connecting the youth from all around the world, my biggest impact, the biggest impact that it left on me was that, I could get a chance to see a whole completely different perspective of things, completely different worlds within the world that I am living in. And I could not feel more, I couldn't feel, I can't say what's the bigger unfairness in that sense, for some specific people and some specific groups of people not to have that experience. So I am really glad that you're working with this topic, because you obviously understand it from a personal point of view, but you've also worked really hard to get to a point where you actually understand it from a professional point of view as well. And so you can spread the knowledge and the experience you have towards other people. And if we also circle back to the beginning when you mentioned the bullshit detector, which I'm definitely going to use in my life as a sentence.
It's a good term now.
Yeah, it's a great term. So these can actually help you get connected with the youth that you're targeting. That this is your target group, and it can actually help you help them relate to you, because they obviously see that you understand what it takes to be there. And no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be a physical disability. It doesn't have to be any disability at all. Someone having social anxiety and not being able to go out of their comfort zone also needs the patience that you mentioned, the effort that you mentioned, and the security that you mentioned for them to travel and to meet different people and to spend a week with people that they don't know. I think it's beautiful that there are people who are actively doing that, doing things to achieve this concept of normalization of traveling and meeting people and learning stuff, basically. So thank you again for doing that, and I really hope that the youth in your environment also, understand the importance of that and the things that it takes for them to get to a project, and participate in some activities. So you mentioned that obviously reaching the youth from any group, but especially for marginalized groups, takes time, it takes effort, and it takes making activities that whose target group are the youth from marginalized groups accessible for them. So how accessible do you think the activities are today when compared to, for example, when you went to your first exchange?
Okay, I think it has been more than 10 years since I participated in my first youth activity abroad. And I must say that things got better. It really got better. I think finally some decision makers understood. Mostly like if we're talking about Erasmus, I'm talking mostly about the organizations who are hosting the project or the national agencies. They understood that, okay, these opportunities should be open. When you're organizing youth activities, they should be more inclusive to everyone. And I think that's why they made some good changes, in the program. For example, they're having like the inclusion support money, which really helps, to make sure that people who are maybe facing barriers to participate in certain things, they get more opportunities to be part of them. But it's still far from ideal, I would say. And my biggest maybe concern or my biggest thing that I'm not really satisfied as a youth worker is that you have inclusive activities, But all these inclusive activities, like in 90% of the cases, are about inclusion. So, for example, we'll have everything accessible, but the project is definitely about disabilities or rights of persons with disabilities or youth of disabilities. And when and they often, send me, for example, the invitations like, oh, you have the network of young people who have certain types of disabilities. Could you share it with them? And I, of course, always do. But the thing is that those young people don't find them interesting because they already know. I mean, they already live with that, and they say like, okay, why should I go and listen about something that has been part of my life? Okay, you maybe get some young people who are activists like me, who are advocating for the human rights. They find those things interesting, but maybe you also want to participate. I don't know, in
ecology,
climate change, yes, or mental health, or gender equality, and things like that. Like we persons with disabilities are not only persons with disabilities. Just like, I don't know, someone from migrant background is not only migrant. I mean, they have interests, they have topics they feel passionate about. They have, I don't know, maybe more identities. We're not only like one identity. We're full of the traits and full of the things we call ourselves. So, of course, we are interested in many things. And when I raise this, they say like, no, but like, I mean, this is especially designed for persons with disabilities, or it's especially designed, for LGBTQI people. And I was like, okay, that's nice, but I think it would be way nicer, those would be open to everyone. So, for example, if you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean that you're not interested in LGBTQI rights. Maybe you want to go and to experience, and also you can have an intersectional identity, so maybe you can be both, and maybe that's something you're really passionate about. So what I'm really trying to advocate and the message to bring whenever I go, and sometimes I think people are sick of listening, but I will keep repeating them that all opportunities should be more or less inclusive, or at least you should have the idea in mind, and that, okay, are we able to organize something that everyone could participate, and it's not actually that hard as people might to seem. And I sometimes even say, that NAs, for example, shouldn't fund projects which are not happening in the buildings which don't have elevators or ramps, to enter. Like, because some things you can really foresee in advance. And I think many NGOs are really going to that direction because they understood that the more diverse group you have for your project, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an Erasmus project. It can be some local activity, but the more diverse youth you manage to get involved, the more beneficial for everyone. Because I think the peer learning is another really powerful thing that happens with young people. And when it's so lovely to see that people who at first glance wouldn't seem any more different, and you keep questioning yourself, like, what could they have in common, become like best buddies, and going everywhere and finding so much things to talk about and do together. That's really the magic, right? And I think that we as the youth workers, or we as the representatives of the organizations, we should be responsible that this magic can happen, and of course we are not able to do everything 100%, but at least we can try, and I think that the effort is really, as I mentioned, youth appreciates, but I think that the effort pays more, like, I don't know, million of times when you really organize something and that's really successful, and then you have like super diverse group and everyone with their own experience, own mindset, own personalities, and that's so beautiful. It's tough but beautiful, and I think when you do that, you really you even learn a lot as someone who's doing the youth work. So I think I learned the most from my young people, and maybe I even learned more from them than they from me. So I think that's as I call magic.
I just love listening to you talk about this. I'm so sorry that I'm smiling all the time. Like, yeah, this is so beautiful to hear.
I get so passionate. No, I get too passionate.
No. It's really great to see something like that in someone, and I love to see the passion. You explain it so well. I mean, basically, you put it really well. And recently, I had a chance to talk with a journalist from Serbia. She's also a person with disabilities, and she told me about how she gets invited to panels to talk about she gets invited to panels to talk about the things, but it usually is about how people with disabilities are represented, blah blah blah. She is a journalist on her own. She's a really successful journalist, but they almost always invite her to talk about people with disabilities, and she loves to talk about it. Obviously, it's a really important part of her identity. But she told me, like, it would be perfect and it would be such a refreshment to see someone inviting me to talk about politics, or generally social inclusion, or about climate change, about different things that I also am professional in, an expert in, and know a lot about. And I'm not only a person with disability. And I was really finding similarities between what you just said and about what she shared with me. And I think that's really true. And obviously, everyone is a spectrum of identities, and they all should be represented in such a way, and they should be reflected in the youth work and the youth-oriented activities as well. So, marginalizing someone is not only not inviting them at all at some activity, on activities, but also marginalizing someone is inviting them to only specific topics that are just specifically connected to their one part of their identity, and that's how you put people in the box, and that's how you separate and divide groups of people rather than connect them, and, as you said, create the magic of getting to know each other. And maybe you and I have a lot in common, and we wouldn't be able to find out about that if we were put in different boxes from the start. So, it's definitely important for the youth-oriented activities to reflect the society that we live in, and to mix all the different groups that we can be faced with, and to, actually have a good, proper representation of different identities. So my last question for this episode for you, although I'm really sad to finish this conversation, I hope we get a chance to talk sometimes else, maybe in a more informal setting. But what can be done to improve accessibility and inclusivity, and ensure that accessibility is actually universal and not only something that exists in more developed countries? It's a tough question, I know.
Yeah. No, it's a question worth 1 million euros, probably. If you ask me, because if there would be magic recipe, I think it would already have been done. But the thing is that now I'm thinking, what would be the first steps you could take? I would say that the first step is someone who's organizing things for young people. And as I said, it doesn't have to be Erasmus. It can be anything: workshop, festivals, seminars, gatherings, or if you're only working on a local youth center, it doesn't matter. But I think first of all, you need to believe in inclusion as a value. Because sometimes you meet people who they don't practice what they preach, right? And you really feel that. And I think young people with the bullshit directors feel that even more. And I think, first of all, you need to believe that inclusion is possible, and to be ready for that, because, we would like to, and sometimes you read that, inclusion is very beautiful, very powerful, people learning from each other, people becoming more aware, people becoming more kind, and so on, which is true. But it also is that inclusion requires more time. It requires you to be super patient. It requires you to be ready for the conflicts to arise, and it requires lots of maybe moments of disappointment, as I said, okay, you will keep building things and then it doesn't happen, doesn't work, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth the try. And I would always advocate, okay, it's tough, but it's doing something big, like building a house. It takes lots of months, and lots of planning and preparation and resources. But once you do it, you have it for the very long time, and it will be super powerful, and it can be something you can really feel proud of. And I think, and I would always say that it's worth every effort you put, and every minute you put on this, And even if you're struggling, it's fine. I mean, fail forward, struggle again until you find what works. Because as I said, like, young people are very different, and I'm sure that everyone has their own way, to be included. But it doesn't mean that you need to stop trying. You keep trying, and I'm pretty sure that there will be the way. So that would be my first maybe advice. And the second one, which is more, to the decision makers, that in order to be inclusive, and it's not only about the persons of disabilities, as I said, like, it's to listen to young people what they need. Don't make assumptions what they need. Ask them. They the experts of their own life, I never met a person who had access needs or some kind of personal needs who wouldn't be able to say what they need exactly, You just need to make sure that, okay, I'm asking not because I'm curious or I just, do the checkbox, but I'm asking because I want to make sure that my activities are involved. And for example, now, we are having a very big partnership building activity next month in Denmark. And there will be an international group of trainers, and we're having a very big group with of participants coming from all over Europe. I think someone is also coming from Serbia. And the topic of the partnership building activity is to make inclusive project. And we have such a diverse group. We have someone with autism, some people with visual impairment, some people who are having mental health issues, and there are some people with physical disabilities and so on, and they have access needs, and we tried really be accommodative. And it's very tough, to organize something that's very good for everyone and comfortable for everyone, and we are struggling sometimes as well. But I like the challenge, and I think like the decision makers should also like the challenge. And among the team of trainers, when we have the prep meetings, we say, okay, that even finding the energizer is tough, because some people cannot see, others cannot speak, and other people don't like to be touched, and it's all fine. And yeah, like, it's a mission impossible, but once we do it, I'm sure it's gonna be something we will feel very proud of, and I really hope it will be a successful event. But what I wanted to say with all this, that when you ask, people really are open about the needs, and once you have it on, with you make sure that they will feel comfortable. At least you can do your part well, and then if you do, it's a very high chance that you will be successful. Of course, it depends on young people as well. It's not only one-way communication; it needs to be both ways. But you also need to be sure that you're proposing everything you can, that they feel welcome and included. And my final step is to be maybe to say that inclusivity is not only in the youth work, it's not only in the schools. Inclusive mindset is all over the world. And sometimes I would like to think that even the tiniest things you do, when you're putting yourself into someone else's shoes, it's already a big step forward, because you really try to emphasize with someone what's going through. And of course, I can probably not, fully know what, for example, a person of color is going through, but I can really be open-minded and listen to their narratives, try to understand, try to improve to be a better person, try to be more open and welcoming and kind, kindness costs nothing, and to make sure that their struggles are my struggles too, and that I can be, not only advocating for what interests me personally, but advocating for the inclusion as a value. And you don't have to be a youth worker for that. You don't have to be a decision maker for that. You can be, I don't know, farmer somewhere in Serbia, or you can be, I don't know, mechanic in Lithuania. It doesn't matter, Like, as I said, kindness is for free. You just need a little bit heart, to make it happen. So that's probably the biggest thing I miss in society sometimes. And I would say, like, if everyone would do that a little bit more every day, to be a little bit, smile to strangers, say people that you like them, compliment someone, that the place would be so much nicer for all of us to live, right? So that's the thing I would really try to practice myself. Of course, I have bad days, but it doesn't mean that tomorrow won't be a good day, and I will not smile to a stranger. So that's the things I would like, to advocate for.
This was really wholesome, and you said some really quotable things. Like when you said that the decision makers should ask the youth because they're the experts in their own life. I really like that. I would get that tattooed, like expert of my own life. That's really cool. And also, I really like how you basically talked about all of these things that need to happen in order for the accessibility to be universal. But then you finished with saying that the empathy is really what makes the difference. And if we have the empathy, all the rest of the things can also come in place. And I really appreciate you pointing out that we should smile to strangers and we should, be more open to the world, so that the best of the world can come to us. So thank you for sharing your perspective. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tell us your story and to share your passion dispassionately, because it's addictive, definitely, and it's contagious. Thank you, and I hope our audience and our listeners also had a good time, because for me this was a really, really inspiring conversation.
And thank you, Maria. It was a very good time for me too. It's always so nice to talk to someone. Well, it felt like a conversation among friends, So it's always nice to talk with someone who's sharing the same passion, and sharing the same values. So thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope the listeners also enjoyed it. Because really, inclusion is something I really believe in. And I hope that more and more people will start believing in that too. But other than that, thanks for having me. It was a total pleasure. And I really, really hope that we will see each other somewhere in the youth work settings or or behind that. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you. It's the same from my side. And I hope that people start believing in what you just said. And I hope that this episode might be the trigger. So thank you once again, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Youth Squad. Stick around for another one. Thank you for listening to Youth Squad. My name is Maria. The Youth Squad podcast series is recorded under a small-scale project in the field of youth called Voicehood of Youth, which will cover 4 topics: human rights, gender equality, European multiculturalism, inclusion and diversity, and active participation. The project is implemented within the Erasmus Plus program and is financed by the Swedish National Agency. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you stay tuned for another episode.